Joining us on this segment of the program, we have author and commentator John Stepling, who's joining us from Indroy, Norway. Also, we have historian, political analyst, and author Marcus Papadopoulos joining us from London. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with Mr. Stepling in Indroy. What are your thoughts on these drills, and what are they set to achieve?
Well, the migrant crisis on the border, and this has to be put in some perspective. The Polish government declared a state of emergency, so no journalists have been allowed anywhere near this border, where the reported 2,000 migrants are sort of stuck in a no man's land, and the weather has turned very cold. Again, reports of something 10 or 12 of these migrants, refugees, have died from exposure over the last couple of weeks because it's become so cold. And they're getting no assistance and no help. Remember, in 2015, 10,000 refugees a day crossed into Germany, and everything was fine. So the Western media is conducting a sort of hysterical smear campaign against Belarus and accusing them of all manner of wrongdoing and of manufacturing this crisis. And Turkey now has stopped transit of any Syrian or Yemeni citizens from passing into Europe through Turkey. But we have to remember also that the Polish government is the Law and Justice Party is the ruling party, and this is a far right-wing nationalistic party, bigoted, Islamophobic, and since they took power a number of years ago now, have curried favor with the United States, have just offered themselves up as a proxy for whatever policy decisions the U.S. made. And they are rabidly anti-communist. They hate Lukashenko and Belarus. And so the media is painting Belarus now the same way they paint Iran or Venezuela or North Korea as these pariah states, and that, you know, something has to be done because they're destabilizing whatever region they happen to be in, and this is nonsense. The crisis is being created by NATO and the EU. There is no real crisis except the one that they have created, and the Polish government has built a 2-meter high fence along the border now with barbed wire and so forth, and there are some reports of mistreatment of the refugees and so forth, which wouldn't be surprising. So you know, this is a very intensive propaganda campaign from the West, and it's targeting Lukashenko and Belarus, and I think probably they knew this was coming, Lukashenko and Belarus, that is, because they have been the target of Western media smear campaigns before. Now, the other day, the Polish ambassador to Berlin, or he was in Berlin, to Germany, gave an interview with the far right-wing magazine Junge Freiheit, and he said it's very likely in the next couple of weeks that shots will be fired, referring to the border region with the refugees. That's a very provocative statement, and it's in keeping with this tone of hysteria that we're seeing from the West. So it's a dangerous situation in a lot of ways, because Lukashenko has in return threatened to cut off the gas to Eastern Europe. This is a Russian-owned gas pipeline, the Yamal-Europe pipeline, I believe Gazprom owns it.
Sure.
So that would intensify social unrest in Eastern Europe too, and that, for all I know, is part of the design here. So.
Okay, let's cross over now to Mr. Papadopoulos in London. Sir, give us your thoughts on the drills. Do you agree with the comments made by our guest, Mr. Stepling in Indroy?
Let me first of all clarify a very important matter. The only migrant crisis plaguing Europe is one that is in its 10th year now, courtesy of America, Britain and France having destabilized both Libya and Syria by having supported terrorists there, which has resulted in well over 1 million migrants entering Europe, most of whom are not from Libya or Syria. Now, turning to the tension along the Polish-Belorussian border, the geostrategic dimensions to this are as follows. America and Britain are looking to foment civil unrest in Belorussia in the hope that this will assist them in their quest to orchestrate a coup in Belorussia against President Alexander Lukashenko, which would result in Belorussia being wrestled out of Moscow's orbit and being brought into the West's orbit, which would be a nightmare scenario for Russia, because it would mean that the western border, the entire western border of the Russian Federation, from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, would be enclosed by countries in the West's orbit. So the Americans and the British, via NATO, are looking for a pretext to increase NATO's presence in both soldiery and weaponry along the western border, not just to target the Russian Federation itself, but also to assist the Americans and the British in their quest to initiate a coup in Belorussia. Remember, the West attempted to orchestrate a coup in Belorussia in the summer of 2020, and it failed, and failed abysmally. Now, Belorussia and Russia have a union state between themselves. And as a result of the West's attempted coup in Belorussia in the summer of 2020, the union state is going to materialize sooner rather than later, which will mean that Belorussia will reunite with Russia. And of course, that will enhance Russia's security in Eastern Europe tremendously. Belarusians overwhelmingly regard themselves as Russians. They regard themselves as part of the Russian world. Indeed, Lukashenko once said in an interview to foreign journalists, "What is the difference between Belarusians and Russians?" "None," he answered. He said, "Belarusians and Russians are Russians. We are the same people." So as a result of the West's endeavor to initiate a coup in Belorussia, this is now speeding up the process of integration between Belorussia and Russia. Russia has now deployed nuclear bombers over the skies of Belorussia. Russia has, of course, deployed paratroopers along the Belarusian-Polish border. And as I said moments ago, the international community will soon be witness to a new country, and that new country will be the materialization of the union state of Russia and Belorussia.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen. We're fresh out of time for this segment of the program. Author and commentator John Stepling joining us from Indore, Norway, and also thanks to historian, political analyst, and author Marcus Papadopoulos speaking to us from the British capital, London. With that, it brings us to an end here on this edition of the News Review, but there's plenty more to come here on Press TV. Stick around.